A human soldier saved the enemy. Princess. First story. The plasma cannon fire lit up the dark corridors of the Zephyrian battlecruiser like deadly fireworks. Sergeant Marcus Chen pressed his back against the cold metal wall, feeling the vibrations of enemy footsteps approaching. His squad had been wiped out during the boarding operation, leaving him alone deep in hostile territory. The mission was simple: disable the ship's main reactor and escape. But nothing was ever simple in the war between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire. Marcus checked his rifle's energy cell. Barely enough for 10 shots. His armor had taken several hits, and the left shoulder plate sparked whenever he moved. The ship's artificial gravity felt heavier than Earth standard, making every step feel like trudging through thick mud. He could hear the chittering sounds of Zephyrian soldiers communicating in their insect-like language somewhere nearby. The Zephyrians were not what humans had expected when first contact happened 50 years ago. Standing 7 feet tall with 4 arms and exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian, they looked more like giant praying mantises than the typical gray aliens of old science fiction movies. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's, but humans had one advantage the galaxy had never seen before: pure, stubborn determination mixed with creative chaos. As Marcus crept through the ship's maze-like interior, he noticed something odd. The walls here were decorated with intricate patterns that seemed more artistic than military. The lighting was softer, almost elegant. This wasn't a weapons deck or engineering section. He had stumbled into what appeared to be living quarters, but not just any quarters. The materials were too rich, the craftsmanship too detailed. A sound made him freeze. Not the harsh chittering of soldiers, but something else. Something that sounded almost like crying. Marcus had heard enough sounds of pain and fear during the war to recognize genuine distress, even from an alien species. His training told him to ignore it and complete his mission, but his human instincts pulled him toward the sound. Following the noise, Marcus found himself at an ornate door that had been partially blown open, probably from the initial attack. Through the gap, he could see a large chamber decorated with what looked like precious metals and stones, and in the center of the room, chained to the floor with energy restraints, was a Zephyrian unlike any he had seen before. She was smaller than the typical soldier, more delicate in build. Her exoskeleton had a blue-green shimmer instead of the usual black, and her 4 arms moved with graceful precision, even in her distress. Most striking were her eyes. Large, multifaceted like a dragonfly's, but somehow conveying intelligence and emotion that Marcus could recognize despite the alien features. The energy restraints around her wrists and ankles were clearly causing pain. Each pulse of the containment field made her whole body convulse slightly. Marcus realized what he was looking at: a prisoner. But why would the Zephyrians keep one of their own people chained up on their own ship? Before he could think too hard about it, the sound of approaching soldiers echoed from the corridor behind him. Marcus had seconds to decide: complete his mission and leave, or risk everything to help someone who belonged to the species that had been trying to kill him for the past 3 years of this brutal war. The prisoner looked up and saw him through the damaged door. Their eyes met across the species barrier, and Marcus saw something that transcended the war: pure desperation and hope. She didn't call out or try to alert the guards. Instead, she simply looked at him with an expression that seemed to say, "Please." Marcus cursed under his breath and squeezed through the gap in the door. The prisoner watched him approach with cautious hope. Up close, he could see that her restraints were connected to a control panel on the wall. The writing was in Zephyrian script, which looked like a combination of geometric patterns and flowing curves that hurt his eyes to look at directly. "I don't suppose you speak English," Marcus whispered, knowing it was pointless but needing to say something. To his shock, the prisoner responded in accented but clear English. "You are human soldier," she said, her voice having an odd harmonic quality, like two people speaking in unison. Why do you help enemy? Marcus almost dropped his rifle. In 3 years of war, no one had ever heard a Zephyrian speak any human language. The military brass claimed they were probably too alien to learn human speech, or too arrogant to try. Yet here was one speaking to him as clearly as any human. Why do you speak English? Marcus asked while examining the control panel. The approaching footsteps were getting louder. I study human culture before war, she replied. I am Princess Zarathes of the royal house. My father rules the Eastern Sector Fleet. I was prisoner here because I speak against war with humans. A princess. Marcus had just stumbled across an alien princess who opposed the war, and she was being held prisoner by her own people. The implications made his head spin, but he didn't have time to think about politics. The control panel had symbols that might correspond to power settings, and Marcus began pressing them randomly, hoping to hit the right combination. Left pattern, then spiral, then vertical line, Princess Zarathes said urgently. But human soldier, if you free me, you become war criminal by your own laws. Helping enemy royalty is treason. Marcus paused for a moment. She was right. If he was caught helping her, Earth's military would court-martial him for treason. If he was caught by the Zephyrians, they would probably do worse. But looking at her chained and suffering, he realized that some things mattered more than military law. My name is Marcus, he said, following her instructions on the control panel. And sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the wrong laws. The energy restraints flickered and died. Princess Zarathes rubbed her wrists where the restraints had burned her exoskeleton, leaving dark marks. She stood gracefully despite her ordeal, and Marcus was struck by how different she seemed from the vicious warriors he had fought. There was intelligence and dignity in her bearing that the propaganda had never mentioned. Marcus, she repeated, her harmonic voice making his name sound almost musical. I am in your debt. But soldiers come. We must escape together or die together. The footsteps were now just outside the door. Marcus could hear Zephyrian voices growing agitated as they discovered the damaged entrance. He looked around the room for another exit and spotted what might be a ventilation shaft near the ceiling, but it was too high for him to reach alone. Can you lift me up there? He asked, pointing to the shaft. Princess Zarathes nodded and interlaced her 4 hands to create a step. Marcus was surprised by her strength as she boosted him up to the shaft opening. The cover came away easily, revealing a passage just wide enough for them to crawl through. You first, Marcus said, but she shook her head. Human soldier goes first. I know ship layout. I guide you to escape pods. Marcus pulled himself into the shaft, just as Zephyrian soldiers burst into the room below. Their angry chittering echoed up through the ventilation system as they discovered the empty restraints and the missing princess. Princess Zarathes climbed up behind him with fluid grace, moving through the tight space with ease despite her larger frame. This way, she whispered, her voice carrying strangely in the metal confines of the shaft. Emergency pods are 3 levels down. But Marcus, you must know something important about why I was prisoner. They crawled through the maze of ventilation shafts as she explained. The war had started when a Zephyrian exploration ship had encountered human colonists on a disputed world. Both sides claimed the territory, and the first meeting had gone badly wrong. Humans had been defending what they thought was their rightful colony, while Zephyrians had been protecting what they believed was their ancient territory. But truth is different, Princess Zarathes said as they reached a junction in the shaft system. My father's military advisors wanted war. They told him humans attacked first, unprovoked. They showed him false evidence. When I discovered deception and spoke truth, they declared me traitor to empire. Marcus felt his world shifting. The official Earth story was that Zephyrians had attacked human colonists without warning, forcing humanity into a defensive war. But according to the princess, both sides had been manipulated by warmongers who wanted conflict. "So this whole war is based on lies?" Marcus asked. "Yes. Military leaders on both sides benefit from war. Weapons manufacturers, territorial governors, military contractors. They need enemy to maintain power and profit. Peace would end their influence." They had reached an access panel that opened into a corridor near the emergency pod bays. Princess Zarathes used her knowledge of the ship's layout to guide them through service passages and maintenance areas, avoiding the main corridors where soldiers were searching for them. The escape pod bay was surprisingly quiet. Most of the crew was apparently involved in the search or dealing with the damage from the human attack. Marcus and the princess approached one of the smaller pods, designed for single-person emergency evacuation. "This will barely fit both of us," Marcus observed. "Is not problem. Zephyrian physiology adapts to confined spaces. We evolved in cave systems on homeworld." As they prepared to enter the pod, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The lights shifted to a red emergency pattern, and automated announcements echoed in the Zephyrian language. "They have discovered we escaped," Princess Zarathes translated. "Ship is now in lockdown. All escape pods will be monitored and targeted by defense systems." Marcus realized their situation had just become much worse. Even if they managed to launch, the ship's weapons would destroy their pod before they could reach minimum safe distance. They needed a different plan. "What about the main shuttle bay?" he suggested. "Could we steal a fighter?" "Possible, but heavily guarded. And I cannot pilot human vessel. You cannot pilot Zephyrian craft." They stood there for a moment, the absurdity of their situation sinking in. A human soldier and an alien princess trapped on an enemy ship, trying to escape together while both of their people wanted to capture or kill them. Then Marcus had an idea that was either brilliant or suicidal. "What if we don't try to escape? What if we try to stop this war instead?" Princess Zarathes looked at him with those multifaceted eyes, and Marcus could see her processing the implications. "You suggest we work together to expose truth?" "I'm suggesting we do something neither of our militaries expects. Instead of fighting each other, we fight the real enemy, the people who started this war with lies." The princess was quiet for a long moment, weighing their options. Around them, the ship continued its search, and Marcus knew they had only minutes before they would be discovered. "Such action would make us fugitives from both sides," she finally said. "We would have no protection from either government. We would be completely alone against powers that control entire star systems." Marcus checked his rifle one more time and looked at the alien princess who had become his unlikely ally. "Then I guess we better make sure we succeed." Princess Zarathes made a sound that Marcus thought might be Zephyrian laughter. "Marcus of Earth, you propose something that sounds like complete madness. Is that a yes or a no?" "Among my people, madness and courage are often same thing. Yes, I will help you end this war, but first, we must survive next few minutes." The sound of approaching soldiers echoed from multiple directions. Their hiding place in the pod bay would be discovered soon. Marcus and Princess Zarathes looked at each other, two beings from different worlds about to attempt something that could either end a devastating war or get them both killed. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "Ready," she replied, and together they prepared to take their first step toward what would either be victory or doom. A human soldier saved the enemy princess. Second story. 3 days later, Marcus found himself in a situation he never could have imagined, hiding in an abandoned mining station with an alien princess, trying to plan the exposure of a galactic conspiracy. The escape from the Zephyrian battlecruiser had been harrowing, involving a desperate fight through the ship's corridors, a stolen shuttle, and a chase sequence through an asteroid field that had nearly killed them both. Princess Zarathes had proven to be far more resourceful than Marcus had expected. Her knowledge of Zephyrian technology, combined with her ability to speak multiple languages, had been crucial to their survival. She had also demonstrated combat skills that surprised him, moving with lethal grace when cornered Zephyrian soldiers had tried to recapture her. The mining station orbited a dead planet in neutral space, abandoned when the ore deposits had been exhausted decades ago. It was the perfect hiding place, far from shipping lanes, with minimal energy signature and equipped with basic life support that still functioned. Marcus had suggested it because of intelligence reports about smugglers using such stations as waypoints. "Show me again," Marcus said, leaning over the holographic display that Princess Zarathes had constructed using salvaged Zephyrian technology. The display showed a three-dimensional map of communications networks between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire. Red lines indicated message traffic between military commanders, while blue lines showed civilian communications. What caught Marcus's attention were the green lines, secret communication channels that connected certain Earth military officials directly with Zephyrian military leaders. These communications happened before first contact incident, Princess Zarathes explained, her four hands manipulating the holographic controls with practiced ease. See timestamps? Earth General Morrison and Zephyrian War Commander Kethvar were exchanging messages weeks before colonial encounter that started war. Marcus studied the data, his military training helping him understand the implications. They were coordinating, planning the incident to make it look like an unprovoked attack from both sides. Correct. Morrison needed external threat to increase Earth military funding. Kethvar needed glorious war to advance his position in imperial hierarchy. They created false flag operation that made both sides believe other attacked first. The evidence was damning, but Marcus knew it wouldn't be enough. Data can be faked. We need something more concrete, something that can't be dismissed as enemy propaganda. Princess Zarathes manipulated the display again, bringing up another set of files. I have more than communications. Before capture, I accessed financial records. Follow the money, as humans say. New information cascaded across the holographic display. Weapons shipments, resource transfers, even personnel exchanges between supposedly enemy forces. Companies on both sides had been selling weapons to their enemies while publicly supporting the war effort. Military contractors were making profits from both governments while prolonging the conflict. "This is incredible," Marcus breathed. "The entire war is a business operation." Yes, but there is more. Something that makes this information dangerous to many powerful people. She brought up another display showing political figures from both species. Earth senators, Zephyrian nobles, corporate leaders, military commanders. A vast network of individuals who had been profiting from the war while sending other people's children to die. "These people have too much to lose if war ends," Princess Zarathes continued. "They will kill anyone who threatens their conspiracy, including us." Marcus was beginning to understand the true scope of what they were up against. This wasn't just about exposing a few corrupt officials. They were challenging a system that involved some of the most powerful people in known space. "How did you get all this information?" he asked. "My position as princess gave me access to many systems, but also I have allies, others who suspected truth but were afraid to act alone. Scientists, diplomats, even some military officers who grew tired of senseless war." She showed him another display, this one containing contact information for people on both sides who might be willing to help expose the conspiracy. The list included Dr. Elena Vasquez, a human xenobiologist who had been advocating for peaceful contact with alien species, and Commander Thisika, a Zephyrian military officer who had been questioning orders to attack civilian targets. "These people could help us, but contacting them means revealing our location. Once we do, we become targets for both sides. Marcus considered their options. They could try to transmit the evidence to news organizations, but without credible sources to verify it, the information would likely be dismissed as wartime propaganda. They could try to contact sympathetic officials directly, but that would expose both them and their allies to retaliation. "What about your father?" Marcus asked. "He's the fleet commander. If we could convince him that he's been manipulated—" Princess Zarathes made a sound that Marcus had learned indicated sadness. "My father is a proud warrior who believes he fights just war to protect our people. Learning that his own advisors betrayed him would destroy him. But yes, he would listen to evidence if presented properly. And my commanding officer, Colonel Sarah Rodriguez, she's always been skeptical about how this war started. If we could get the evidence to her—" They spent the next several hours developing a plan that was ambitious, risky, and probably impossible. They would simultaneously contact sympathetic individuals on both sides, provide them with the evidence, and coordinate a joint revelation that would be too big for either government to suppress or discredit. The key was timing. The evidence had to be revealed to Earth and Zephyrian populations at the same time, making it impossible for either side to claim it was enemy propaganda. News organizations on both sides would have to receive the information simultaneously, along with verification from credible sources. "The annual peace talks are scheduled to begin in 1 week," Princess Zarathes observed. "Both sides will have representatives meeting on neutral space station. If we could get evidence to them directly—" "That's suicide. The peace talks are heavily guarded, and both sides are looking for us. Not if we don't go ourselves. What if we found someone already attending who could present evidence for us?" Marcus thought about it. The peace talks were mostly for show, both sides going through the motions while planning their next military campaigns. But there would be legitimate diplomats there, people who actually wanted peace, but were being overruled by military interests. "Ambassador Chen Wei from Earth has always pushed for real negotiations," Marcus said, "and your people must have someone similar." "Yes. Diplomat Ves Andra has long argued for cultural exchange instead of military conquest. But how do we get evidence to them without exposing ourselves?" The solution came from an unexpected source. While monitoring communications traffic, they intercepted a message that made both of them realize their window of opportunity was smaller than they thought. "They are planning major offensive," Princess Zarathes translated from the Zephyrian military communications. 3 days from now. Target is human colony world of New Geneva. 40 million civilians." Marcus felt cold dread wash over him. New Geneva was a peaceful agricultural world, home to families who had never been involved in the military conflict. It was also his sister's home. "My people are planning counteroffensive at same time," he realized, accessing human military channels with his soldiers' communication codes. Target is Zephyrian civilian shipyard at Kethamora Station. Hundreds of thousands of workers and their families. Both sides were planning to escalate the war dramatically, targeting civilian populations for the first time. The evidence they had gathered suggested this was part of the conspiracy: create an atrocity that would make peace impossible and ensure the war continued for generations. "We have 3 days to stop this," Marcus said grimly. "Impossible. Even if we transmit evidence immediately, it takes time to verify and act on such information. Military operations this size cannot be stopped quickly." Marcus looked at the holographic displays showing the planned attacks, thinking about his sister Maria and her 2 young children living peacefully on New Geneva, unaware that death was approaching from space. He thought about the Zephyrian families at Kethamora Station, probably going about their daily lives, not knowing that human warships were already moving toward their home. "What if we don't try to stop both attacks?" he said slowly. "What if we prevent one and use the other as proof of the conspiracy?" Princess Zarathos stared at him with her multifaceted eyes. You suggest we allow civilians to die to save more civilians? I suggest we prevent the attack we can stop and use the other attack to expose the truth. If we can show that military leaders planned civilian targets to escalate the war, it proves the conspiracy. It was a horrible choice, but Marcus could see the logic. They couldn't prevent both attacks with the time and resources available, but they might be able to prevent one while documenting the other to provide irrefutable evidence of the conspiracy. Which attack can we stop? Princess Zarathos asked quietly. Marcus studied the operational plans they had intercepted. The human attack on Kethmora Station was being coordinated by General Morrison, one of the key conspirators. The fleet was already underway, but the orders hadn't been transmitted to ship captains yet. If they could intercept Morrison's communication codes, we might be able to corrupt the human attack orders, make them target empty space instead of the station. But the Zephyrian attack on New Geneva is being run by War Commander Kethavar himself. We don't have access to those systems. Princess Zarathos was quiet for a long moment. I can give you access to Kethavar's communications. I know his codes from my time as prisoner. But Marcus, if we prevent Zephyrian attack and allow human attack to proceed, your people will commit atrocity while mine appear innocent. And if we do it the other way, your people commit atrocity while mine look innocent. Either way, one of our sides looks like the aggressor. Unless we can prove that both attacks were planned by same conspiracy, Princess Zarathos said thoughtfully. If we can show that Morrison and Kethavar coordinated both attacks to escalate war, Marcus began to see a different plan forming. We don't prevent either attack. We let both proceed, but we make sure the evidence of coordination is impossible to hide. You want to let civilians die on both sides? I want to save millions of civilians who will die if this war continues for decades. Sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice. Princess Zarathos considered this for a long time. Marcus could see the conflict in her alien features, the struggle between preventing immediate harm and stopping greater future harm. There is third option, she said finally. We warn both civilian populations directly. Tell them to evacuate. It will reveal our presence, but it might save lives on both sides. And give the conspirators time to change their plans and cover their tracks, Marcus pointed out. We'd lose our chance to expose them. They faced an impossible decision with no good options. Allow civilian casualties to expose the conspiracy, or warn the civilians and lose their chance to end the war. Marcus thought about every military ethics class he had ever taken, every discussion about acceptable losses and the greater good. What would your people do in this situation? He asked Princess Zarathos. Zephyrian military philosophy teaches that protecting one's own people is highest duty. But you ask me to choose between protecting some and protecting all. I'm asking you to help me make a choice that neither of us wants to make. Princess Zarathos stood and walked to the mining station's observation window, looking out at the stars where the war was being fought. Marcus joined her, two beings from different worlds facing a decision that could affect the future of both species. My father taught me that true leadership means making choices others cannot make, she said quietly. If we do nothing, millions die in long war. If we act, thousands die, but millions are saved. Marcus nodded slowly. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Then we let attacks proceed and ensure evidence cannot be hidden or denied. It was the most difficult decision Marcus had ever made, but he knew it was the right one. They would allow the atrocities to happen while making sure the truth about who planned them could not be suppressed. How do we make sure the evidence gets out? Princess Zarathos turned away from the window with new determination in her bearing. We do what humans call going big or going home. We transmit evidence simultaneously to every news organization, every government official, every military commander on both sides. Make it impossible to suppress. That will expose our location to everyone looking for us. Yes, we will have perhaps 1 hour before ships arrive to capture or kill us. 1 hour to change course of galactic war. Marcus looked at his alien ally, this princess who was willing to sacrifice everything to stop a war that was consuming both their peoples. Are you ready for this? Marcus of Earth. I have been ready since the day I spoke truth and was imprisoned for it. Let us end this war. They spent the next 2 days preparing their final gambit, a coordinated information release that would expose the conspiracy to everyone simultaneously, followed by their own inevitable capture or death. It was a plan that would either end the war or get them both killed. But as Marcus watched Princess Zarathes work tirelessly to gather final pieces of evidence, he realized something that surprised him. Despite everything that was happening, despite the impossible situation they faced, he had never felt more certain that he was doing the right thing. The war would end in 3 days, one way or another. A human soldier saved the enemy princess. Final story. The transmission went out at exactly 0800 hours, Galactic Standard Time, simultaneously reaching every major news network, government official, and military command center in human and Zephyrian space. Marcus watched the holographic display as their carefully compiled evidence spread across the galaxy like wildfire, carried by communication relays that couldn't be stopped or recalled. Signal confirmed on all channels, Princess Zarathes reported from her monitoring station. Evidence packages delivered to 847 recipients across both empires. We have approximately 43 minutes before nearest warships arrive at our location. Marcus felt a strange mixture of relief and terror. They had done it. The truth was finally out there, impossible to suppress or deny. But they had also painted the largest target imaginable on themselves. Every ship in both fleets would now be racing to capture or kill the human soldier and Zephyrian princess who had exposed the greatest conspiracy in galactic history. The evidence they had transmitted was devastating. Financial records showing weapons sales between supposed enemies. Communication logs proving that Earth and Zephyrian military leaders had coordinated the attacks that started the war. Video recordings of secret meetings where civilian casualties were discussed as acceptable costs for maintaining profitable conflict. Most damning of all, the complete operational plans for the coordinated attacks on New Geneva and Keth Mora Station, scheduled to begin in 18 hours. Look at this, Princess Zarathes called out, monitoring news broadcasts. Human news networks are already confirming authenticity of documents. Your ambassador Chen Wei is demanding emergency session of Earth Senate. Marcus checked the Zephyrian channels using translation software they had cobbled together. Your diplomat Ves Andra is doing the same thing on your side. She's calling for immediate investigation of War Commander Kethvar. The reaction was swift and dramatic. Within minutes of the transmission, emergency sessions were being called in both governments. News anchors struggled to comprehend the scope of the conspiracy. Military officers found themselves questioning orders they had received. Most importantly, the planned attacks on civilian targets were being exposed before they could be carried out. Incoming transmission, Princess Zarathes announced. Multiple sources. The communication came from Dr. Elena Vasquez, the human xenobiologist they had identified as a potential ally. Her face appeared on their holographic display, transmitted from Earth's capital. Marcus Chen, Princess Zarathes, if you're receiving this, I want you to know that your evidence has reached the right people. Emergency sessions are convening on both sides. The attacks on New Geneva and Keth Mora have been suspended pending investigation. You may have just saved millions of lives. Another transmission followed immediately. This one from Commander Thisika, the Zephyrian officer who had questioned targeting civilian populations. To the brave souls who exposed this conspiracy, the evidence you provided has reached Fleet Admiral Zethmore himself. War Commander Kethvar is being arrested as we speak. Princess Zarathes, your father has been informed of your situation. He requests immediate contact. Marcus felt his knees go weak with relief. They had actually done it. The attacks were stopped, the conspiracy exposed, and both sides were taking action. But their celebration was cut short by proximity alarms throughout the mining station. "Ships approaching," Princess Zarathes reported tensely. "Multiple contacts from different vectors, human and Zephyrian vessels." Marcus looked at the tactical display showing incoming ships. The nearest vessels would arrive in less than 20 minutes. After that, their fate would be in the hands of people who might consider them heroes or traitors, depending on political calculations they couldn't predict. "We should prepare for either rescue or capture," Marcus said grimly. "Or execution," Princess Zarathes added with what Marcus had learned was Zephyrian dark humor. They spent their remaining time destroying sensitive equipment and preparing for whatever came next. Marcus cleaned his rifle for what might be the last time, while Princess Zarathes composed messages to allies and family members who might never see her again. The first ship to arrive was human, the UES Indomitable, a heavy cruiser that Marcus recognized as Colonel Rodriguez's flagship. His commanding officer was personally leading whatever came next, which could be good or very bad news. "Attention mining station occupants," came the radio transmission in Colonel Rodriguez's familiar voice. "This is Colonel Sarah Rodriguez, Earth Defense Forces. Marcus Chen, you are ordered to surrender yourself for immediate debriefing. Princess Zarathes, you are offered protective custody pending resolution of current diplomatic crisis." Protective custody was better than execution, Marcus thought. But before he could respond, Zephyrian ships arrived on the other side of the station. The tactical display showed a tense standoff between human and alien vessels, all weapons powered but not yet targeting each other. "This is Fleet Admiral Zethmore of the Imperial Navy," came another transmission, this one requiring translation. "Princess Zarathes, by order of your father and the Imperial Council, you are commanded to return for formal recognition of your service to the Empire. Sergeant Marcus Chen, you are offered sanctuary under diplomatic protection as friend of the royal house." Marcus and Princess Zarathes looked at each other with amazement. They were being offered protection by both sides instead of being branded as traitors. "Something has changed," Princess Zarathes observed. "Political situation has shifted faster than we expected." More transmissions poured in as news of the conspiracy's exposure spread throughout both fleets. Admiral Morrison had been arrested on charges of treason. General Kethvar was in custody facing similar charges. The entire military command structure on both sides was being investigated. But the most important transmission came from an unexpected source. Princess Zarathes's father, Fleet Commander Roththes. The holographic display showed a massive Zephyrian in elaborate ceremonial armor, his exoskeleton decorated with symbols of rank and authority. When he spoke, his harmonic voice carried the weight of absolute power. "My daughter, your actions have brought great honor to our house and our people. The evidence you provided has exposed treachery that threatened the future of both our species. You will return home as a hero, not a traitor." He paused, and Marcus was surprised to see what might have been emotion in the alien leader's multifaceted eyes. "As for the human Marcus Chen, who protected my daughter when our own people had failed her, by ancient law and custom, you have earned a debt that can only be repaid with royal favor. Name your reward, and if it is within my power, it shall be granted." Marcus felt the weight of the moment. A royal favor from the leader of the Zephyrian Eastern Sector fleet was probably worth more than he could imagine. He could ask for wealth, technology, territory, almost anything. "I know what I want," he said quietly to Princess Zarathes, "but it's going to break every diplomatic protocol in the book." She looked at him curiously as he activated the communication system, to respond to her father. Fleet Commander Rothes, I request an audience with both you and my own military leadership, not to claim a reward, but to propose something that has never been tried before. Speak your proposal, Marcus of Earth. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would either make history or get him court-martialed by his own people. I propose a joint human-Zephyrian commission to investigate and prosecute war crimes on both sides. Not just the conspiracy we exposed, but all the atrocities committed during this war. Both species working together to ensure justice and prevent future conflicts. The communication channel went silent for long moments. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat as he waited for responses from the most powerful military leaders in known space. Fleet Commander Rothes was the first to speak. You request that we judge our own people alongside our former enemies. I request that we prove both species are capable of justice and honor, regardless of species loyalty. Colonel Rodriguez's voice came over the human channel. Marcus, what you're proposing is unprecedented. It would require both governments to agree to external oversight of their military actions. With respect, Colonel, unprecedented situations require unprecedented solutions. Princess Zarathes stepped forward and activated her own communication system. Father, honored Fleet Commander, the human Marcus speaks wisdom. Our people have always valued honor above convenience. This proposal offers chance to demonstrate that honor to the galaxy. More silence, broken only by background communications as both commanders consulted with their advisors and political leadership. Marcus realized he was probably proposing the most ambitious diplomatic initiative in galactic history, and doing it while hiding in an abandoned mining station with an alien princess. The response, when it came, was from both leaders simultaneously. The Joint Commission proposal is accepted in principle, Fleet Commander Rothes declared. Details to be negotiated during formal peace negotiations. Agreed, Colonel Rodriguez confirmed. Marcus, Princess Zarathes, you're both ordered to report for debriefing and preparation for your roles as founding members of this commission. Marcus felt the world spinning around him. Not only were they not going to be executed or imprisoned, they were being asked to help create an entirely new form of interspecies cooperation. There's one more thing, Princess Zarathes said suddenly. My reward to Marcus, as is my right under royal law. Speak it, daughter, her father replied. I grant Marcus Chen honorary membership in the Royal House of Zarathes, with all rights and privileges thereof. He is to be considered family, with protection under our highest laws. The implications of this pronouncement hit Marcus like a physical blow. Honorary membership in an alien royal house was completely unheard of. It would give him diplomatic status, legal protection under Zephyrian law, and access to their highest levels of government. Princess, he started to say, but she cut him off. You saved my life when you had no obligation to do so. You risked everything to help end a war that was destroying both our peoples. This is not payment of debt, Marcus. This is recognition of bond that transcends species. Colonel Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system with barely concealed amazement. Well, Sergeant Chen, congratulations. You're probably the first human in history to become alien royalty. Does this mean I need to learn royal protocol? Marcus asked, still trying to process what had just happened. Princess Zarathes made the harmonic sound he had learned was Zephyrian laughter. Do not worry. I will teach you everything you need to know about being civilized. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as both fleets coordinated the most unprecedented diplomatic exchange in galactic history. Marcus and Princess Zarathes were transferred to neutral ground aboard the diplomatic station where the original peace talks had been scheduled to take place. The peace talks, which had been mere political theater, suddenly became the most important negotiations in galactic history. Representatives from both species worked around the clock to establish frameworks for the Joint Commission, reparations for war crimes, and protocols for future cooperation. Marcus found himself in the surreal position of being consulted on matters of interspecies law and justice, his perspective as a soldier who had fought in the war. Combined with his new status as honorary Zephyrian royalty, made him uniquely qualified to bridge the gap between both species. Princess Zarathes proved to be an equally valuable diplomat, using her knowledge of the conspiracy and her connections on both sides to facilitate agreements that would have been impossible through normal channels. 3 months after their escape from the mining station, Marcus stood in the Hall of Justice on the neutral world of Harmony Station, watching as the first war criminals from both species were sentenced by the joint commission they had helped create. General Morrison and War Commander Kethvar received life imprisonment for their roles in starting and prolonging the war, but the real victory wasn't in the punishments. It was in the framework they had created for future cooperation between species. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, joint scientific projects, and most importantly, protocols for preventing and resolving future conflicts without warfare. "Do you regret anything?" Princess Zarathes asked as they watched the proceedings from the diplomatic gallery. Marcus thought about the question seriously. The path they had chosen had been difficult and dangerous. They had made choices that haunted him, allowing some casualties to prevent greater ones. They had risked everything on a plan that could easily have failed. "I regret the lives lost during the war," he said finally. "I regret that it took a conspiracy to force our peoples to work together. But I don't regret saving you, and I don't regret the choices we made to end this. Even though those choices violated laws of both our peoples." Marcus smiled, thinking about the journey that had brought them from enemies to allies to something like family. Sometimes, the right thing to do is break the wrong laws. I learned that from a very wise princess. Princess Zarathes made her harmonic laughing sound. And I learned that humans have expression for our situation. No good deed goes unpunished. Except in this case, our good deed was rewarded with making us responsible for maintaining peace between two entire species. Do you think we can do it? Actually maintain peace between humans and Zephyrians? Marcus looked out at the mixed crowd of humans and Zephyrians working together in the station corridors below. 6 months ago, the sight of the two species cooperating would have been impossible to imagine. Now it was becoming routine. "I think if a human soldier and an alien princess can become family, our species can figure out how to be neighbors." Princess Zarathes nodded, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the lights of the station where two species were learning to build something better than the war that had nearly destroyed them both. "Marcus of Earth, brother of my house, I believe you may be right." Outside the station's viewports, ships from both fleets patrolled together, former enemies working side by side to protect the peace they had all fought to achieve. It wasn't a perfect peace, and it wouldn't be permanent without constant effort from people like Marcus and Princess Zarathes. But it was a beginning, and sometimes, Marcus thought, a beginning was enough.